Hi guys, I'm here today with a very special collab video. I reached out to some of my mommy friends on YouTube, and I will link everyone's video down below. And we decided to do a video about the age gap dilemma. Many moms know that there's always the dilemma of whether to have your kids really close together or to space them out. My kids are pretty close together, so I figured that I would talk about kind of my situation, and then all the other moms are going to be talking about their situation and the age gap that they have with their kids, and pros and cons of their basically their family dynamic and in their specific situation, because every situation is different, every child is different, every mother is different, every family is different. That's just the way things are. So yeah, let's just get into it. As most of you know, I have two children. I have a daughter and a son. My daughter is 6 years old. Her birthday is January 13th, 2008. And my son is 5 years old, and his birthday is January 28th, 2009. So they are exactly 1 year and 15 days apart. And so they're pretty close together, not exactly Irish twins as people call it when they're under a year apart, but they are very close in age. I'm going to go into 3 pros and 3 cons specifically that I think anybody that's planning their family or that is thinking about having their kids close in age should know about. I think I'll start with the cons just because I want to end the video on a good note. The first con I will say right now is that they argue and fight quite a bit. Now, I know all siblings argue and fight, but I feel like because they're so close in age and their emotions are so like high strung, and I don't know if that's just my kids because they come from an emotional family. I'm very emotional. My husband would probably kill me if he knows that I say this, but he's a pretty emotional man as well. So they come from a very emotional family, but their emotions, I guess, are so high strung, and so they argue so much. And the thing is that their likes and dislikes are so similar because they're in basically the same age group that it just it gets excessive. They argue a ton. My second con would be that you feel like you don't really get to enjoy your children, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I actually don't regret having my kids so close in age. I'm actually glad I did. I would like more kids in the future, and if we did decide to have 4 kids, because that's what I wanted. I wanted 4 kids. My husband is kind of set on 3. So if we did decide to have 4 kids, I would like to have our next 2 kids close in age. But it's kind of, I remember when my daughter was a baby, and I found out I was pregnant with my son when she was 4 months old. So it's like I had a baby, and I'm taking care of this baby, and as much as I'm enjoying her, I'm also dealing with all the pregnancy stuff of being tired and being constantly sick and stuff like that. And I think maybe my situation might feel more like I didn't get to enjoy her as much, although I know I did enjoy her, and I loved every bit of having her as a baby just as much as I loved having him as a baby. But I should get into it more by telling you that when my daughter was 6 months old and I was pregnant with my son, I ended off being in the hospital for close to 2 months. I had pain in my back, and they couldn't figure out what it was for a while. I went to like 4 different hospitals, and nobody could figure out what it was until finally they figured out that basically my insides were all rotting. I had gallbladder stones, and they had gotten so bad that they were affecting my pancreas, and I ended off with pancreatitis, and they affected just basically everything was just messed up. So I was in the hospital for 2 months on just an IV. I could not eat anything because I couldn't keep it down. They tried putting me on just like a liquid diet, like just beef broth, which was disgusting, and stuff like that. And it was just hard for me. So she was about 6 months old, so I missed kind of just that part of their life. I feel like she was starting to do more stuff, and I kind of missed it because I was in the hospital and she couldn't be there the whole time. She was, you know, in between her grandparents' houses, and whenever my husband got out of work, he would get her and he'd bring her, and I'd get to see her for maybe an hour. He was a car salesman at the time, so he worked really long hours. He worked until 9 p.m. most nights, and visiting hours are actually over before that, but he would just kind of come in really quick and see me. Sometimes he'd bring her on his lunch break if he could get away for a lunch break and stuff like that. So it was really hard on me. So I feel like I missed something, and you know, I don't like to blame it on the pregnancy, but you know, it was because I was pregnant. They didn't want to, it was just high risk for them to do surgery right away. So they waited a little longer, and then they finally did the surgery and everything, and we were fine, obviously. But it was just, I feel like because I was pregnant while she was a baby, I didn't get to enjoy her as much. And because I already had her and she was still so young, she wasn't a toddler, she wasn't like 2 years old. She was still really young. She had just turned 1 year old. She was still like in the, she was walking, but she was in the stage where they're not walking well enough that you really trust them to walk around everywhere by themselves, because she would fall a lot. And it's just, I guess I feel like when you space them out more when your kids are older, when you're having a new baby, you kind of get to enjoy them being babies more because your kids are more self-sufficient. I don't know if that's accurate. That's just kind of how I feel. I'm not positive on that. Obviously, I've never done it, so I wouldn't know. But that's kind of one of my cons. So my third and last con will be that you kind of experience the terrible stages times 2. And I'm going to get to this more when I go into my pros, but it could be a blessing. But dealing with, you know, they call it the terrible 2s, but there's also the horrible 3s. And the 3s sometimes can be so much worse than the 2s. That was the case with my daughter. With my son, it was actually the other way around. So while I was dealing with his terrible 2s, I was dealing with her horrible 3s. And it was just really hard on me. And also while I was dealing with her terrible 2s, which actually weren't that bad. My daughter wasn't that... As a 2-year-old, she wasn't that hard. She developed more of an attitude as a 3-year-old than as a 2-year-old. As a 2-year-old, she was, she did throw a tantrum here and there, but she wasn't as bad. Once she turned 3, she was worse. So she wasn't that bad as a 2-year-old, but when she was 2, and he was just learning to walk and stuff, I kind of felt like I wasn't paying as much attention to her anymore, and that it was guilt. I think I felt a lot of mommy guilt because of that. Okay, sorry guys, I had to go grab my other camera. I don't know how the lighting is going to be on this camera, but I had to go grab my other camera because my other one's battery just died. Anyways, so I was in my cons. So like I was saying, the stages like the terrible 2s, terrible 3s, and stuff like that, it's kind of harder to deal with when you're basically doing both of them at the same time. So that's another con for me. And I don't think that's the case for everyone. I think that's just how it ended up happening for me. So let's go into the pros because I'm ready for something good. Let's talk about something good. So the first pro to me is just how close my kids are with each other. They are so close. I don't think they could live without each other, which is amazing. They had started off with separate rooms, and randomly now at the ages of 5 and 6 decided that they wanted to share a room. They've never shared a room, so I think that's just amazing how close they are that they actually want to share a room together, especially since it's they're a boy and a girl. I just didn't think they'd want to do that, but they really wanted to share a room, so we went ahead and made that happen for them. And they're still in that room and they're loving it. So I think just how close they are. Right now, my husband has been needing me to pick him up at work while he's working on his car, which should be done tomorrow. Anyways, while he's been working on his car, he's been needing me to pick him up at work. He gets out of work at 10:30 at night. So while I've been going to to pick him up. I've been needing Kaylee's to sleep on my bed just because I can't pull her down from the top bunk without waking her. So they cry almost every night because they just want to sleep in the same room together, and it's precious. So how close they are and how much they love each other and how much they depend on each other, that's just an amazing pro. And then my second pro is going to be kind of a counteraction of my last con. I'm going to say it's great that I got to go through a lot of stages at the same time. A lot of things that they did, I'm going to say after Junior turned 1, after his first year of life, they were doing it together. Like, for example, they play with the same kind of toys, so I don't have to worry about keeping certain toys away from certain kids or anything like that. They play with the same age range. They're in the same age range of toys and just things like that. It's just not like a long wait in between things. And a lot of things that if you had kids spaced out, like for example, if Kaylee was 3 and Joey was 1, Kaylee might be able to go into a play place or do something on her own that Joey wouldn't be able to. But because they're so close in age, they're able to do the things together. So I'm really thankful for that, and I think that's a great pro to having your kids close together. And my final pro to having your kids close together is that they get to enjoy having a sibling from early on in life. And my brother and I are 18 months apart, so I've always had a sibling. But just coming from the family dynamic of my husband, him and his siblings, there's 7 years in between each one of them. When he was under 8 years old, he didn't get to enjoy having a sibling. He doesn't complain. He's happy with the age gap and stuff like that. But I can just see like a lot of stuff when I talk about stuff that me and my brother did and stuff like that. I can see that he sees that like maybe he missed out a little bit, even though he didn't. He and his brothers are very close, as am I close to them. It's just, I feel like my children are blessed to be able to enjoy having that sibling from the beginning, basically the beginning of their lives. And I think that's a great pro. And also, I get to do it all at once. So I don't know if this video kind of made sense. I'm gonna have to go through it when I edit it, but I'm hoping that I can get all the footage together from the 2 cameras and that it works out. I am so excited to be doing this collab. Like I said, please check out all the other wonderful ladies that are going to be doing this video, and maybe they can give you some more insight than I could. I just couldn't think. But yeah, so just check out the other ladies. I will post their links as soon as they have their videos up in the more info bar below, and I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.